Okay, welcome everyone. As we could already say, a good Erev Shabbos, and we are sponsored by A.B. Spry for Fush Shalem of Taiba Reis Bas Hinda, and for great zivugim for their daughter and grandchildren. We are sponsored by Shalom Fogel, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Zeb ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef ben Sion ben Yaakov Zev, and for a great shidduch for Chayet Tzivya Bas Shoshana Gittel. We are also sponsored by Baruch Ian, Lili Nishmas Yaakov Chaim ben Abba, Esther Bas Yona, Avram and Shmuel HaKain for the Fush Shalem of Liba Bas Anya. We're sponsored for the spiritual, emotional, and physical protection for Yeshua Menachem Mendel ben Bela Shendel Rivka. We're sponsored by Eddie Chazan for the safety of Klal Yisrael and for the Nitzachon of the IDF and their safety. We're sponsored by Menachem Yemansky with the tefillah that all those that are looking for a shidduch should find it quickly and easily. And we are holding on the bottom line of Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, the bottom line on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, Lamed Hey Amud Beis, what am I saying? Bottom line on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Beis, V'Hashemen Shelohen. There was a decree about the oil of Goyim. This is kosher oil, but it was a decree again, an anti-assimilation decree. There is going to be a huge controversy about whether this decree was rescinded and the source of this decree. This is going to be a matter of a great commotion. So, V'Hashemen Shalahem, Shemen Shalahen, Rav Amar, Rav says, Daniel Gazer Alav. Daniel decreed against the oil of, I'll put it on mute. Okay. Daniel decreed against the use of oil of Goyim. Vishmul Amar, Shmuel says, no, the problem is Zlifasan Shel Kalim Tameim Osartan. It's that which seeps out of Tomei Dikka Kalim causes it to be prohibited. Now this is a very complicated, it's only a Havamina, because the Havamina is, Tumah doesn't come from taste. And anyway, why do you have to, if the Kalim are Tomei, then the Tumah would come from the Kali. But the Gemara says, Otukuli alma oichle taras, that wouldn't be a reason to prohibit it, because not everybody eats betara. Elas lifasan shel kalim asurin oisartan. It's because of the oil that is contained in their vessels that have forbidden belia, forbidden taste, that causes the oil to be prohibited. So Shmuel says to him that Amalei Shmuel l'Rav Bishlem l'Didi, that I say it's because of the absorption from their utensils. Da'aminas lifasan shel kelim asurin oisartan, that it's the absorption that goes into the oil from their forbidden utensils that pig was cooked in and lobster was cooked in. So Hainu d'chiyasar Rabbi Yitzchak b'Shmuel b'Marta v'Amar Dorish Rabbi Samloi Netzivan. That's what Rabbi Yitzchak b'Shmuel b'Marta said, that Rabbi Simloi expounded in Nesivan, Shemen Rabbi Yehuda Bezdino Nimno Alav Etiru, that Rabbi Yehuda and his Bezdin voted to permit it. Okay, so they voted that a stam keli is eina ben yoima. The absorption in the keli is not fresh from that day, and it's nice and tam lefgam. It gives a tam of unpleasantness, and that's why Rabbi Yehuda Nasi permitted it, because some nice and tam lefgam is mutter. But according to you, that it's an anti-assimilation decree enacted by Daniel, If it's enacted by Daniel, how could a later Bezdin come and rescind it? Elali Didach, according to you, Damrat Daniel Gazer Olav, that Daniel decreed about it. Well, also Rabbi Yehuda Anasi Umavatale, Rabbi Yehuda could come and cancel the decree of Daniel. Vatanan ein Bezdin yochel levatel divrei Bezdin chaverai. One Bezdin cannot come and nullify the words of a former Bezdin, Elam came gadol aimenu b'chachma b'minyan, unless it's greater in wisdom and in number. And of course, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi would never think to be so bold to say that they were as wise as Daniel. I mean, we know Niskatnu Adairis, the further we get to Sinai, so Amalei, so he said, who do you hear from that Rabbi Yehuda rescinded it? Simloi Luda Kamrit? Because it was a statement of Rav Simloi. You're talking about Simloi from Lud? Shani Ludai the Mizalzel. The Ludai are different because they treat the Gezeris the Rabbanan lightly. And therefore you can't rely on him that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi rescinded it. So Rav said to him, Amalei Eshalachle, should I send to Rav Simloi that you don't trust his report? So, excuse me, he said to Rav, Shmuel said to Rav, should I send to Rav Simloi? So Ichsef. So Rav was embarrassed at that. So Amar Rav, so Rav said, look, even if you'll say that Rabbi Yehuda Anasi did not have a drasha that this was a decree of Daniel, Abulmai says it's a drasha from a pasuk. Amar Rav, Imheim loy darshu, if they didn't expound the pasuk, anan loy darshinan, should we not expound it? We have proof from a pasuk that Daniel made a decree about the oil of the Goyim. I'll show you the proof. Vaksiv vayasim Daniel alibay. Daniel placed on his heart. Asher lo yizgal. We shouldn't pollute ourselves. Bepas bag hamelech. The stipend of bread from the king. Ubiyayin mishtav, and the wine of his beverages. Now mishtav is in the plural. And therefore he darshins, since mishtav is in the plural, b'shtei mishtois hakasim medabra, it's talking about two beverages, echad mishti yayin ve'echad mishti shemen. Now, Rav was of the opinion that Daniel took it to heart, and he decreed it for all of Klal Yisrael. Rav savar aliba isam, Daniel took it to heart, u'lechol Yisrael hayra, and therefore he paskin for all of Klal Yisrael. Shmuel doesn't hold that way. Shmuel says that's not mukhrich from the pasuk. Shmuel savar aliba isam, he had it in his heart, but ulechol Yisrael layara, but he didn't paskin to answer it for all of Klal Yisrael. But now the Gemara says, Rav, how could you say that oil was a decree of Daniel? V'shemen Daniel Gazer? Wait a second. Wasn't that from the Yud Ches Gezeris that were made by Shammai and Hillel? Avimi nosa mishmei de Rav, piton v'shamnon yenon uv'noiseyen, their bread, their oil, their wine, their daughters. Now we're going to see what daughters mean. There's a whole question what it means, daughters. Kulan mishmayna aser davarhain. They are all from the 18 gezerais of Shammai and Hillel. So it can't be that it was done by Daniel. V'chi tema asa Daniel gazar v'loy kibo. Daniel decreed and they didn't accept it. And sometimes the tzibur doesn't accept it. Vasu talmidei Hillel v'Shammai v'gaz v'kibel. Hillel and Shabbal came and decreed it and accepted it. So then, if that's the case that it wasn't accepted, then why did Rav make mention of the decree of Daniel? Im kein mayasu dosei de Rav. So here now the Gemara starts splitting hairs. Ella, Daniel gazer ela be'ir. Daniel decreed on the oil in the city, because in the city is where we worry more about, in the city is where we worry more about assimilation. And Shammai and Hillel came and decreed it in the field. Says the Gemara, so Reb Yehuda, Heichi Matzi L'Mishnah Takanta de Talmidei Shammai v'Hillel. Forget about Daniel. Even according to Shmuel, how could Reb Yehuda Nasi rescind something that was adopted by Shammai and Hillel? V'tanan ein bezdin yochel levatel divrei beis din chaveira elam ken gadol imena b'chokma b'minyan. And Shammai and Hillel were from the much earlier time. Rabbi Yehuda would never be able to be mevatel a takana of Shammai and Hillel. V'ayid ha'amar Rabba Babachan Rabbi Yochanan bakol yochel levatel bezdin divrei bezdin chaveira. There would be a possibility that a later bezdin could cancel that which is done by a previous bezdin, chutz mishmayna asadavar, except for the 18 enactments. Shafilu yovei Eliyahu bezdina, even Eliyahu and his bezdin ain't shaymelay. We don't listen. It was accepted by all of Klal Yisrael. Amram Mishar Shematam, Hoyel Upashet Yisur and B'Rav Yisrael. It was accepted by Klal Yisrael. Amram Shmuel Bar Abba, Amram Yechlin, Yashva Rabbi Yiseinu Vodku Al Shemen. Says the Gemara. So now the Gemara answers. The Gemara says, so how could they reverse that which was done by Shammai and Hillel? So now the Gemara wants to say that this is a gezeira she'ein roiv hatzibur yochel lamed by. There's a rule that sometimes a gezeira is made and the tzibur can't withstand it. We found that with the takonis that they made with weddings. They made a real strong takonis, and then they fell to the wayside. We still have a little bit, but it was first started with a whole bang. But it seems to have been that it was a gezeira she'ein roiv hatzibur yochel lamed ba. It was something that the community couldn't withstand. So the Gemara says that this was the story with Shemen also. As the Gemara says, Amra Mesharsha Matam, how is it possible that... So first the Gemara says that why can't you rescind one of the 18 gezeiras, Hayilu Pashat Isurai B'Rav Yisrael? But by Shemen, it wasn't accepted by Klal Yisrael. Shemen loy Pashat Isurai B'Rav Yisrael. The Amar of Shmuel Bar Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan, Yashvu Rabbi Seinu Ubatku. A rabbi sat and did an analysis, al Shemen, Shaloi Pashat Isurai B'Rav Yisrael. The Isur did not spread through Klal Yisrael. V'samchu Rabbi Yiseinu al divrei Rab Shimon ben Gamliel v'al divrei Rab Elazar bar Tzaddik, and the rabbis relied on that which was taught by Rab Shimon ben Gamliel and Rab Elazar bar Tzaddik. Shaya Aimrim ein geizim gezeira ala tzibur. We don't make a decree on the community. Elim kein roiv tzibur yochel lamed ba, unless the majority of the tzibur can withstand it. We welcome in Ruvain Shanit, who is our last arrival over here. And we are holding on the bottom line of Lamed Vav Amud Aleph. Bottom line. Ruvain is a bottom line type of guy, and we're holding by the bottom line. Okay, we have a lot of late arrivals tonight, but I always say better late than never. And we do have now 28 Zoomers, so that's not shabby. Says the Gemara, the idea that we don't make a gezeira unless the majority of the tzibur can keep it. The Amar of Avoda Zara Daf Mikra. What's the pasuk? Now this is a pasuk that we learn in Haftarah of Shabbos Hagadol. Ba'me'era atem ne'orim. With a curse, you are cursed. In other words, you accepted upon yourself a gezeira, and you accepted it with the threat of a curse. And yet, in this matter, v'oisi atem koivim, and you're robbing it from me, hagoy kuloi, the entire nation. That means that it's only adopted if it's accepted by the entire nation. Ika goy kuloi, and of course, ruba is kekuloi in iloiloi. Now, we made some statements in passing that needs a closer look. Gufa means that we're going to take a closer look. And I think already we turned the page. We could start welcoming everybody in as we welcome in Saba, Mo Kushner, Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishman, Dr. Guy, Yaakov Warman, Dr. Black, Yisrael Fisher, Shalom Fogel, Ben Zion Cohen, Baruch Ian, Rabbi Kranz, Shimon Klein, Mel Zachter, Michal Avram Chavin, avidly listening in the car, Barry Cement, Ruvain Shannon, Michal, Nachman Chapler, Berish Gesseman, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Danny Vogel, Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, Abe Arbach, Avram Rezepkowitz, Yitzi Muller, David Helfgott on Coalition, and it's great having everybody over here. So the Gemara says, Gufa, Amar Baali, Amar Avimi Nusa Mishmei Derav, Pitan Vishamnon Yenon Ubanaisayan, their bread, their oil, their wine, and their daughters, Kulan Mishmaina Aser Davarhain. They're all from the 18 Gezeiros. So what does it mean, their daughters? What's the Gezeirah on their daughters? Banaisayan Mahi. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Gazru al Banaisayam Nidois Me'arisasan. In order that we shouldn't come close to them, they decreed a tumah of a nida on the girl, on the Goyish girl from the cradle. Remember, in those days, we were careful with tumah v'tara, with handling of truma and meiser, so they decreed that we should stay away from them, even though there's no nidus by a goy at all, and there's certainly no nidus before puberty, but they decreed that they should be a nida already from the cradle as an anti-assimilation move. That's the opinion of Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Ugeniva mishmei de Rav Amar, Geniva said in the name of Rav, Kulan misham avedis keichavim gazu behem. All of these, the bread, the oil, the wine, and their daughters, are a movement protecting us from being affected by idolatry. The Chiyatz of Rav Acha bar Ada Amar Reb Yitzchak, Gazru al Pitan Mishum Shamnon. They decreed that we shouldn't have their bread because of their oil. So the Gemara says, why is bread more than oil? I mean, why is oil more than bread? My Omer Hashem Mapas, that we're afraid if you have the bread, you might have the oil. El al Pitan Mishamnon Mishun Yenon. Because we're concerned that you'll drink the wine. And the Mefarshim say this is before they became so aduk in idolatry that wine, the stam yain was yain nesach, but we didn't want them to have bread and oil because that would lead to drinking wine, which leads to levity, which leads to a lack of control. Ve'al yenon mishum b'naisein, and we didn't want to get intoxicated. We didn't want to get heady, because it'll lead to their daughters. And the daughters will lead to sway us to idolatry. Now we'll see that the davar achar is that they made their young children have a tumah of a zav, because they were worried about homosexuality. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. First thing Gemara says, what do you mean they decreed wine because of their daughters and decreed daughters because of idolatry? Daughters are an issa d'oraisa. You're not allowed to be with a goyish girl. That's the Gemara. But I say in d'oraisa, dichsiv lo yisischatein bam. You're not allowed to marry them. So now the Gemara says, no, that's only the 7 nations of Eretz Yisrael. The Raisa Sheva Umais. Aval Sharei Avdei Loy. But other Goyish girls, that's not the case. V'asim v'inu v'gazu v'afilu the Sharei Avdei Kachavim. Other Goyish girls. So the Gemara says, Hold on a second. That's not so simple. For she will turn your son away from you. That all Goyish girls are forbidden. So the what's the gezerah of girls? Eladaraisa ishas derechasnas. Midaraisa, it's forbidden to marry them. V'asa inu gazer afilu derech snus. That's forbidden even to have a fling. Says the Gemara, a fling is forbidden from the Bezdin of shame when they dealt with Tamar. Znus nami bebezdino shel shame gazer. Ichsiv ayami Yehuda hitziu v'sigasaref. Take her out and burn her. So you see, they decreed against being with a Goyish woman. They decreed about promiscuity. Even then, so the Gemara says, "El doraisa oivei kechavim abal bas Yisrael." That's what they thought was by Tamar. First, biblically speaking, a guy that sleeps with a Bas Yisrael, a woman, is easily swayed by the man. The Mashcha Basrei, that is forbidden midoraisa. Aval Yisrael abal avedis kechavim, but a Yisrael that sleeps with a Goyish girl who doesn't sway him, loy. That wasn't forbidden by the court of shame. In other words, the court of shame was where they thought that Tamar was with a guy. So that was what we learn out from the Bezdin of shame. Aval Yisrael abal avedis kechavim, but a Yisrael that sleeps with a Goyish girl, b'derech znus, where the Goyish girl will not sway him, loy. Also inu, and then Shammai and Hillel came and Gazer afilu Yisrael abal avedis kechavim. So the Gemara says, but a Yisrael that sleeps with an avedis kechavim was also before Shammai and Hillel. That was enacted by the Bezdin of the Chashmonaim. Yisrael abal avedis kechavim. First thing Gemara asks, a Yisrael that sleeps with a gaita, what was Zimri and Cosby? Zimri and Cosby is a Yisrael that sleeps with an Avedis Kechavim. And there it says, Halach l'moish misinayu, that kanoim payimai. That was what Pinchas revealed. Da'amar habayil haramis, if a Jew sleeps with a Goyish girl, kanoim payimai, zealots could kill him. Ela deraisa b'hesya ukamaisa shahaya. That's only if it was in public, like the incident with Zimri, was sleeping with Cosby in public. The Asa Inu and Shammai and Hillel came and Gazer afilu b'tzina. They decreed even where it was private. Says Gemara, but that's also before Shammai and Hillel. B'tzina nami bezdino shel Chashmonai gazru. The bezdin of the Chashmonaim decreed about it. The Chi Asa Rabdimi Amar bezdino shel Chashmonai gazru, that Yisrael habal avedis kechavim, a Yisrael that sleeps with a Goyish woman, chayiv mishum najga. It's chayiv because it leads to najga. Najga is nida, even though a Goyish woman doesn't have nidas, but it would lead one to sleep with a Jewish nida. Shifcha, it would lead one to sleep with a shifcha. Goya, it would lead one to marry a guy. And Aleph, it will give a taste to have Eishes Ish, adultery. Kiyasa Ravan Amar Mishum Najgaz. Nida, Shivcha, Goya, and Znus. It will lead a Kayin to sleep with a Zaina. So here now the Gemara splits it further. The Bezdin of the Chashmonaim decreed against actual sex. Ki gazu bezdina shel Chashmonai bia. Aval yichad loy, but being alone, not. V'asa inu and Shammai and Hillel came, gazu afilu yichad. Says the Gemara, that doesn't solve the problem either. Yichad nami bezdina shel David gazu. Yichad was prohibited by David. Dam Rabbi Yehuda b'Yisrael Shah, At that time, when Amnon violated Tamar, there were Gazru al Yichud. Says the Gemara, Imrei Hasam Yichud the Bas Yisrael. There, that's a Yichud with a Yiddish girl. Al Yichud Ivedis Kechavim Light, but not the Yichud with a Goyish girl. That they didn't decree. But also Inu and Shammai and Hill came Gazru Afilu Yichud Ivedis Kechavim. Says the Gemara, it can't be that David was geyser on Yichud of a Bas Yisrael. The Isser Yichud of a Bas Yisrael is an Isser Doraisa. Yichud the Bas Yisrael Doraisa. The Amr Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rab Shimon ben Tzaddik Remez li Yichud min HaTorah minayin. How do you know that you're not allowed to be alone with a forbidden erva? Shenema ki yisischa achicha ben imecha. If you are seduced by your brother, the son of your mother. This is the terrible halacha of maces. So the question is, why does it say ben imecha? It's only the son of your mother, not if it's a paternal brother? Doesn't make sense. It should say ki yisischa achicha. What's the difference if it's your maternal brother, your paternal brother? Anybody that seduces you to idolatry is put to death. Now it's true that there's a remez over here to Yoshka. Because it says ki yisischa achicha ben imecha. One of your brother is going to come and claim that he's the son of a mother and not the son of a father. He's going to claim a virgin birth. But the Gemara says, Pashtas, why does it say achicha ben imecha? V'chi ben ein meses, only the son of only if he's a maternal brother is he going to seduce you. Ben of, the son of a father, ain't a meses? No, we learn out a completely different drasha from ben imecha. And that is, a son is allowed to be alone with his mother, even though he's forbidden to her. Ela ben misyachad imimai, but that's the only exception. Ve'ein achar misyachad im kol haraya shebetorah. You can't be alone with any other erva. Says the Gemara, well, yichud daraisa is the eishes ish. Yichud what's biblical is with a married woman or any other erva besides a mother. David v'gazer afilu ayichud the pnuya, and David decreed that you can't even be alone with an unmarried girl. I said, and what did the Talmidei Shammai and Hillel come? V'asa Talmidei Shammai v'Hillel gazer afilu ayichud daivedes kechav. They can't even be allowed with a goy. Now the last thing we said is they were geyser a davar acher because of a davar acher. What is that? What does that mean? Something because of something else because of something else. It can't be more vague than that. Mayal davar acher mishim davar acher. What does it mean on something else because of something else? These are unmentionables. You know, Klal Yisrael, we're refined. We want to let you know that these things are so nasty that they're unmentionable. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak gazu al tinik oivik kechavim. They were geyser about a little goyish boy, sheyatama beziva, that he should have the avatuma of a zav, shelo yeh tinik Yisrael ragel etzai, so that a Yiddish boy shouldn't hang around him b'mishkav zachar, so that it will lead to homosexuality. The Gemara says, Damar Rabbi Zeira, Tsar Gadol Hoyali Eitzel Reb Asi. I had a lot of distress asking this question many times to Reb Asi. And Reb Asi brought it to Rabbi Yochanan, Eitzel Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan Eitzel Rabbi Yani. Rabbi Yochanan brought it to Rabbi Yani. Rabbi Yanai Eitzel Reb Nosson ben Amram, and Rabbi Yanai brought it to Reb Nosson ben Amram. Reb Nosson ben Amram Eitzel Rebbe, Tinik Ovid Kechavim Me'emosai Metame Beziva. From what point is he Metame Beziva? So V'amali, Rebbe told me Ben Yomer, only 1 day old. And when I came before Reb Chia, Amali, he said that it's only when he's a Ben Bia at 9. Ben Tesha Shana V'yayim Echad. Ukishabasi v'tzeisi dvarai l'fnei Rebbe, and when I related it to Rebbe Taka retracted Amali Hanach dvarai, put aside my words, ve'echos divrei Reb Chia, and seized the words of Reb Chia, when he's ben Tisha Shanim V'yayim Echad, Hayil V'roy L'Bia, since he's fit for Bia, Metame Nami Beziva, he's Metame Beziva. Okay, Rabbi Isai, another daf in the books, Daf Lamed Vav, and now we will do for the Shabbos table, for